It's Thursday, the 16th of November. My name is Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel, and today we have the NTSB preliminary report on the Beechcraft Bonanza crash in Covelo, California, back on October 20th that took the life of a JetBlue pilot and his girlfriend. You may remember this accident. We first talked about it on this channel. The couple took off from Heber Valley Airport in Utah, flew all the way out to Shelter Cove for a weekend getaway, a place that we go to frequently. In fact, we were just there at Shelter Cove a few days prior. By the time they got there on the afternoon of Friday, 20 October, it was apparently fogged in, so they had to divert, and they ended up diverting to the small Round Valley Airport there in Covelo, California. And then it's still not clear as to whether they got fuel there at Covelo or did not get fuel. This Bonanza did have the long-range fuel tanks, but then they apparently crashed on takeoff out of Covelo. Here in the preliminary report, we have a couple eyewitness accounts as to what happened. According to a witness, the airplane lifted off the runway surface near the departure end of runway 28 at Round Valley Airport, Covelo, California. So they elected to take off into the rising terrain towards the west, as we briefed earlier, as opposed to taking off the other direction towards the east, where you have several miles of valley before you reach the rising terrain. The airplane began a left turn towards the northwest in a nose-high attitude before it disappeared from the witness's view. About this time, a second witness observed the airplane as it cleared a group of trees by about 20 feet while it continued its left turn in the same direction from about 60 feet above ground level. As the airplane turned towards the south, its bank angle increased to about 70 degrees, and the airplane subsequently descended into the ground. The airplane exploded after it impacted the ground, and a post-crash fire ensued, so it sounds like he stalled the aircraft in. The airplane came to a rest on a hillside about 0.4 of a mile west of the departure end of runway 28 at about the 1,500-foot elevation. Here's the Round Valley, located here in Northern California, what I call the Coast Range part of California. Shelter Cove's up here. They would have diverted back to Covelo from Shelter Cove. The airport located right here at about the 1,400-foot elevation with high terrain just to the west and plenty of room taking off to the east. And again, if we go down here and take a look at the end of the runway, if you take off to the east, there's the mountains in the distance. If you take off to the west, which may very well have been into the wind, but also into that setting sun, you're immediately confronted with rising terrain. And here in the NTSB report, they show the approximate flight path departing off of the Covelo Airport, starting an immediate left turn, the two witness locations, and then the crash site just right there, 0.4 off the end of the runway and a little bit to the left, with 4,000-foot terrain just 1 mile further ahead. Investigators will be looking carefully at this propeller, and they'll probably be able to tear into that engine to try to confirm if the engine was running at full power at the time of impact. So this may very well come down to a case of pilot decision-making. Why would an experienced pilot with mountain flying experience and airline experience elect to take off to the west into rising terrain at an unfamiliar airport at sunset after a long day of flying? I know Round Valley Airport Covelo doesn't have a lot of options for spending the night right there, and we're not sure if they were able to get fuel or not out of the fuel island here at the Round Valley Airport. And sadly, sometimes it seems we're just not getting the word out on this channel. When I did the Hangar 107 live briefing with Mike Patey here a couple of weeks ago in Utah, there at Spanish Fork, I was given 4 accidents to discuss, and one of them was mountain flying into high terrain, flying up a box canyon right outside of the Cedar City area that ended up in a fatal result. And unfortunately, it looks like another one has just happened in the same area. Here on Tuesday, the 14th of November, 3 young guys in a Cessna 172 elected to fly up a box canyon and, of course, did not make it. One of the 3 people on board the aircraft did survive. The other 2 did not. November 3971 Lima, Cessna 172 Skyhawk crashed under unknown circumstances near Provo, Utah. 2 people were killed and 1 injured as a result of the crash. And they just taken off from the Spanish Fork Airport, and look where they went up. Here's Salt Lake City in the Great Salt Lake, Utah Lake, Provo, Utah. Let's see, Provo Airport's right there. Spanish Fork Airport's right here. They departed to the left. Let's look at that FlightAware data. But they departed to the left and then proceeded to attempt to head right up this steep canyon, which boxes you in very quickly. Right up here, the accident scene, according to the lat longs, was located right about here. And if we take a look at this steep canyon, somebody took a picture. There's a trail along here that takes you up into this rising terrain, and that's just how tight this canyon is. These kids came up this canyon. It looks like the young man who was flying just got his commercial pilot's license here a few months ago, so he's probably in the 250-300 hour range, right in that killing zone of low flying time, and he's attempting to take 2 of his buddies up here sightseeing, and either in an effort to turn the aircraft around or just simply flying into rising terrain, they didn't make it. You can't the moment you put your nose inside of one of these canyons, you have sealed your fate. You are not getting out of this sort of rising terrain. Here's the FlightAware data. Spanish Fork Airport, left turn, and then a right turn right up into that box canyon. Steadily climbing, slowly climbing in the Cessna 172 up to about 6,800 feet and just barely hanging on to 100 miles per hour. And it's that time of the year where the seasons are changing and we see these VFR flight into IMC condition accidents occurring. We had one just here Tuesday, 14 November. After a good month of November of no fatalities, we got 2 in a row here. This young man, 21 years old, purchased this Cherokee to build flying time and didn't make it in a VFR into IMC scenario. And we're getting some news about an airplane crash, a Cessna 210 near La Jolla, California, that involved weather as well. Stay out of the weather. Thank you so much for your support, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.